The moment I stepped into the marble-floored auction hall, my cousin Amber's laugh sliced through the room like she'd been waiting for a target. Unfortunately, that target was me. "Wow," she said loudly, nudging her brother Kyle. "Did she really show up here? Does she know this isn't a dollar saver event?" The people around her smirked, pretending not to stare. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, but I kept walking, my boots clicking steadily on the polished stone as if I owned the place. They had no idea how different tonight was going to be. Amber leaned closer, just so I could hear her whisper, "Try not to touch anything expensive, Harper. We don't want you owing the building money." I didn't flinch. Instead, I offered her the softest smile, the kind people mistake for weakness, when really it's the final warning before everything flips. If only they knew what I knew. 3 months ago, none of this would have been possible. I was broke, sleeping on an air mattress, juggling 2 jobs, ignored by the people who were supposed to love me.
But now?
Now I had more resources than the entire front row combined, and none of them knew it.
Not yet.
I slid into my seat near the back, crossing my legs calmly. The smell of perfume, money, and overpriced sparkling water hung thick in the air. On stage, the auctioneer shuffled through papers while assistants displayed glossy catalogs of properties that most people would spend decades dreaming about. My family perched arrogantly in the center rows, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, all dressed like a magazine spread. They always made a point to sit where everyone could see them. Reputation meant more to them than kindness ever had. Meanwhile, I was the relative they all pretended didn't exist unless they needed someone to run errands or babysit for free. Tonight was the last night I would ever let them laugh at me. "Lot number 16, the auctioneer announced. A newly restored lakeside estate located on Willow Shore. Opening bid, $2.5 million. My family straightened instantly. That was the property, their dream home, the one they bragged about nonstop. My Uncle Raymond puffed his chest like he'd already won it. My Aunt Marlene dabbed her lipstick and whispered something to her daughter, who nodded excitedly. I kept my eyes on the stage, silent. The bidding began aggressively. 2.6, 2.7, voices rising higher with every number. My family jumped in loudly, confidently, convinced they were unstoppable. Every few seconds, Amber glanced back at me with that same mocking half-smile, like she couldn't believe I'd dared to step foot in the same room as them. What she didn't know was that I had already studied every inch of that estate. I knew the renovation costs, the property taxes, the land survey, the water rights. I also knew it was undervalued by at least 40%. And I knew exactly what I came here to do. 3.1 million, Kyle shouted. 3.2, someone countered. Marlene lifted her paddle. 3.4. The room murmured with approval. The Lakeside Willow Estate wasn't just any house, it was a legacy home. The kind of property families keep for generations. They wanted it so badly they didn't even notice how recklessly they were climbing. I leaned back, hands resting in my lap. I wasn't nervous. Not even close. For the first time in years, I felt completely in control. Like life finally owed me a moment where everything aligned. Going once, 3.4 million. Amber smirked over her shoulder. "Don't worry, Harper. Maybe when they bulldoze the guest shed, you can afford the leftover lumber." My fingers brushed the paddle lying on my lap. I hadn't touched it yet. I wanted them to believe I never would. They underestimated me for so long. They couldn't imagine another reality. The auctioneer inhaled. "Going twice." I lifted my paddle. 4 million. The entire hall snapped to silence. Heads turned. Marlene's jaw dropped so hard she nearly choked on her lip gloss. Uncle Raymond twisted in his seat like he needed to confirm it was actually me, quiet, forgettable Harper Bennett, who'd just dropped a number bigger than his life savings. Amber blinked repeatedly. What are you doing?" I didn't answer. The auctioneer smiled, reviving the energy in the room. 4 million from bidder 72. Whispers shot like electricity through the crowd. Kyle scrambled. 4.1. I lifted my paddle before he even finished speaking. 4.8. Gasps erupted. People shifted, amazed, confused, and entertained all at once. My relatives looked like they'd swallowed fire. Their faces drained of color, then flushed, then froze. They'd planned this moment for years, moving into Willow Shore, throwing summer parties, hosting family dinners designed to show me how much better their lives were. But now the blueprint was cracking in real time. 4.8, the auctioneer repeated, smiling bigger now. Do we have 4.9? My family hesitated. For the first time ever, they looked unsure. The confidence they always wore like a crown slipped off their heads. Finally, Carl tried again. 4.9. I didn't blink. 5.5. A collective gasp rolled through the room like thunder. Marlene slammed her paddle down. Are you insane? You don't have that kind of money. I finally looked straight at her. You'd be surprised what people can accomplish when no one is watching. The auctioneer, trying not to grin too widely, extended his hand dramatically. 5.5 million. Going once. Kyle shook his head at his mom, panicking. We can't. The bank already. Marlene hissed. We'll take out another loan. Going twice. Their entire row fumbled with calculators, phones, frantic whispering. Sweat formed on Raymond's forehead as he muttered about interest rates and credit limits. But they were out. They knew it. Everyone in the room knew it. I simply placed my paddle on the seat beside me and folded my hands gently. Sold to bidder 72. Applause exploded through the auction hall, along with murmurs. Who is she? How did she pull that off? She just outbid her entire family, damn. My family sat frozen like statues, unable to process what had just happened. Amber stared at me, as if she'd seen a ghost. I stood up slowly, smoothing my blazer, my heart steady, my steps confident. For the first time in my life, I walked past them, and they were the ones afraid to make eye contact. Little did they know, this was only the beginning. The second I stepped into the lobby after the auction ended, the cool night air brushed my face, sharp, refreshing, almost celebratory. I had barely made it 3 steps before footsteps pounded behind me. Harper. Amber's voice cracked like she couldn't decide whether she was furious or terrified. I turned slowly. My entire family approached in a tight, frantic cluster, Marlene at the front, clutching her designer purse like it held the answers to her downfall. Raymond's face was red, Kyle's confusion was written all over him, and Amber looked like she was physically holding her jaw together so it wouldn't drop again. Marlene didn't bother with greetings. Where did you get that kind of money? I tilted my head. The same place you assumed I'd never reach. That's not an answer, she snapped. Neither is your question. I replied calmly. Because you don't actually care where it came from. You care that it didn't come from you, or through your permission. That stunned her into silence. Raymond stepped forward. Be reasonable. That house is too much for you. Maintenance alone. I've already accounted for that, I said. You can't handle a property like Willow Shore. I lifted an eyebrow. But you can? That's interesting, considering the bank just denied your refinancing last month. Raymond froze. Amber's eyes widened. Yeah,
I knew more than they realized.
I hadn't just come prepared. I'd come armed with knowledge they never thought I'd have access to. Kyle tried a softer approach, shifting into that fake-friendly tone he used when he wanted something. Harper, maybe we can work something out. You don't need such a big place. We've wanted it for years. Maybe you could transfer ownership and we could. No, I said plainly. The estate is mine. Amber scoffed, frustration bubbling over. You didn't even look interested until the last minute. Oh, I was interested, I said. I was just patient. Something you've never mastered. Marlene narrowed her eyes. You embarrassed us in that room. I blinked. Embarrassed you? I didn't mock anyone. I didn't try to humiliate anyone. All I did was bid. You knew we wanted that estate, she insisted. Yes, I said, stepping closer. And you wanted me to stay small forever. You wanted me struggling so you could feel important. You never imagined I'd be in a position to make my own choices. That isn't my problem anymore. For once, my voice didn't shake. For once, they were the ones scrambling. Raymond dragged a palm across his forehead. Just tell us the truth. Did you find some rich guy? Did someone give you the money?
Ah,
There it was. The assumption they always defaulted to. Women can't earn big victories without someone handing it to them. I didn't give them the satisfaction of reacting. No one gave me anything, I said. I built it. Quietly.
while you laughed at me.
While you dismissed me. While you pretended my life didn't matter unless it made you feel superior. Marlene crossed her arms. You're being dramatic. Maybe, I said. But I'm also right. They stared at me like they were seeing me for the first time. And maybe they were. I stepped back, turned toward the exit, and pushed the glass door open. The night air rushed in again, cool and liberating. Harper. Amber called desperately. So, what? Are you just going to move into that place alone? Not alone, I said without turning. With peace. And then I walked out, letting the door close behind me. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. A new email notification lit up my screen. Subject: Willow Shore Estate. Ownership documents prepared. Please schedule your walkthrough for tomorrow morning. A smile tugged at my lips. Tomorrow, I would step into the home they spent years bragging about. Tomorrow, the girl they underestimated would have her own keys. And tomorrow their shock would reach a whole new level. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the hood of my car as I drove toward Willow Shore. The closer I got, the quieter the world felt, like even the air knew today was different. When the estate finally appeared through the trees, its glass windows caught the light and shimmered like a promise. My promise. A property agent, a woman named Caroline, was already waiting by the front steps. She extended her hand the moment I stepped out. Ms. Bennett? Congratulations again. This estate hasn't looked this good in years. Thank you, I said, trying not to show how surreal it still felt. Inside, the house opened like a breath, wide, warm, and impossibly peaceful. Polished wood floors, vaulted ceilings, a view of the lake that made the entire world look softer. Every room whispered independence. Stability. A future I had built with my own hands. Caroline smiled. Would you like a full walkthrough? Yes, I said. Let's start with the study. When she opened the door to the study overlooking the lake, I knew instantly it would be my favorite place. Sunlight pouring across the desk, the gentle ripple of the water outside, the quiet that wrapped around me like a fresh start. As she talked through renovation details, I imagined my life here. Early mornings writing by the windows, cooking dinner without worrying about rent, friends visiting without judging eyes in the background. It felt like the first time I could breathe fully. When we finished the tour, Caroline handed me a sleek black folder. Deeds inside. Once you sign the final page, everything transfers officially. My hand barely trembled as I signed. It was done. Legally, fully, unquestionably mine. But peace never lasts long around my family. The moment I stepped outside, I saw a car pull up, Marlene's luxury SUV. The doors flew open, and out stepped half my relatives like they were storming a battlefield. Amber was in the front, her hair still in last night's curls, anger twisting her features. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Raymond pointed toward the estate like he owned the land. We came to talk sense into you. I think I'm done letting you dictate my decisions. Amber pounded up the steps. This was supposed to be our legacy home. You can't just take it. I lifted the sign folder. Legally, I already did. They froze. Marlene's face tightened. Then, at least let us hold our annual summer gathering here. You know how much it means to the family. I studied their faces. Faces that mocked me, diminished me, dismissed me. No, I said simply. This home will never again be a stage for people who tore me down. Amber sputtered. You're petty. Maybe, I said, stepping forward. But I learned from the best. And then I watched them all deflate, their entitlement dissolving into disbelief. For the first time in my entire life, the balance of power shifted, and it wasn't temporary. It was permanent. For a long moment, my family just stood there on the steps of my new home, stunned, blinking, trying to rearrange reality in their favor. But reality wasn't bending this time. Not today. Not ever again. I stepped past them and walked toward the lake, letting the breeze cool my thoughts. The property stretched out around me, quiet, beautiful, mine. Behind me, I heard them whispering. "She can't keep this up," Raymond muttered. "She'll crack," Amber insisted. "She doesn't have what it takes to live like this," Marlene scoffed. Their voices no longer pierced. They just drifted into the air like background noise. When I turned back, I saw exactly what I expected, a family more concerned with appearances than relationships. They weren't devastated because they lost the house. They were devastated because I won it. I walked toward them slowly. "You all keep asking how I got the money," I said. "So, let me answer you once." Their heads lifted. "I built a small business 2 years ago. Something none of you cared to ask about. Something you mocked when you overheard me talking about starting it." Amber frowned. "That online thing? I thought that was a hobby." "It became more than that," I said. "Investors came in. Deals were made. That hobby now employs 12 people. And last quarter, it earned more than Uncle Raymond's law practice." Raymond's face dropped. I continued. "I didn't brag about it because I knew you'd try to tear it down before it grew. So I worked quietly. And I succeeded quietly. And now, I get to live loudly." Marlene crossed her arms, defensive.
Fine.
"So you got lucky." "Luck didn't sign the contracts," I replied. "I did." Their silence told me everything. They weren't proud. They weren't happy for me. They were threatened. Amber stepped forward, her expression softening into something almost vulnerable. "Harper, you could have told me. We're cousins. I would have supported you." I looked her in the eyes. "Would you? Because yesterday, you laughed at the idea of me being able to afford snacks. And today, you wanted me to hand you a house." Her mouth tightened. She had nothing to say. I walked closer to the front doors of the estate and placed my hand on the frame. "I'm not shutting the door on family. I'm shutting the door on how you treated me." "What does that mean?"
Kyle asked.
"It means if you ever choose respect, kindness, and treat me like more than a punchline, then maybe one day, you'll be welcome here. But until then, this property is off limits." Their expressions shifted, anger mixing with guilt, pride tangled with shock. None of them knew how to respond to boundaries from the girl they thought would never set any. I opened the front door, letting the light from inside spill out. "This place represents a new beginning," I said. "And I'm not starting it with bitterness in the guest room." Then, as gently as possible, but as firmly as necessary, I added, "You need to leave." Raymond looked like he wanted to argue, but Marlene tugged his sleeve. Amber lingered the longest, searching my face for some sign of hesitation. There wasn't any. Finally, one by one, they turned back toward their SUV and climbed in. No more insults. No more laughter. Just a heavy silence they didn't know how to fill. As their car rolled back down the long drive, I exhaled, deeply, freely, like I'd been holding my breath for years. Inside, the estate felt different now. Warmer.
Like it had accepted me.
I wandered through the living room, fingertips brushing the wall as if claiming my space 1 inch at a time. I ended in the study, overlooking the water. The sun reflected off the lake in bright, shimmering waves, dancing across the room. I sat at the desk, the first real desk I'd ever owned, and opened my laptop. No mockery. No judgment. No noise. Just possibility. My phone buzzed with a text from my business partner, Lily. "Congrats on the new house. Proud of you. Next chapter starts now." My eyes warmed. Yes, it did. I looked out at the lake, at everything I fought for, everything I refused to let anyone take from me again. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. And that was the real revenge.